at 90 in Wellingborough in the UK. We come to see our podcast sponsors, John and Brent. So welcome to the BiG Scuba Podcast.
Welcome to the BiG Scuba Podcast. That's John.
That's Brent.
Hello.
Right, well, it's really good to see you guys. So, John, do you just want to say who you are and a little bit about
Yeah, I'm John Routley. I guess I started diving when I was about 14, so a very long time ago now. I'm the director and founder of Narked At. That started best part 20 years ago in a shed.
In the front room, in fact.
Front room, then into the garage, then into a big shed in a field, and now into the factory that we've got here.
Yeah, which is where we are today. Yeah. And what about you, Brent?
Yeah, the other founder and director of Narked, and found myself meeting up with this bloke at an inland dive site with gear cobbled together out of bits and pieces, and he thought, I like him because his gear's crap.
Yeah.
Because it fell apart, and I flew a rebreather off its tank valve in one cell just because they want to get out of the water, and John thought, I like him even more now, and next thing you know, we started making stuff in his front room.
We first went diving with spanners in our pockets to sort of fix things along the way as we went. So.
Oh, you thought what, in the water?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, you'll get the odd little leak from a fitting or valve too.
Well, you don't need an ADV underwater to breathe from, so you can fix it and then put it back on.
We shouldn't really say that on microphone and camera, but
it was the 90s, mate. You were allowed to.
Yeah. Health and safety was a little bit more lax in those days.
Yeah. So at the point you met, you were both rebreathing divers.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, actually, what happened was that we were rebreather divers, but we were home builders. Now, back in the 90s, there wasn't a great deal of this stuff. There was a Yahoo News group. People like Tracy Robinette and Paul Rainmakers, and
Dave Sutton,
Dave Thompson. We're all just members of a little group, but we just chatted about stuff, and it was pioneering at that point. And John and I, we hit it off as friends. We really did. We're both as stupid as each other, to be honest with you, and I think that's why we liked each other. And first time we met was at this inland site, and I was running a needle valve for oxygen control on a converted dolphin rebreather.
What is a needle?
So you got, basically, just like the tap on your sink,
okay.
The more you open it, the more water comes out. This is a very, very fine micrometric metering valve they use for gases.
Okay.
It's mainly for industrial process, where you can allow just a few litres a minute of gas through at a pressure, and that's how it regulates the amount of oxygen that went into the rebreather to, for metabolism. It was simple as that. So, I'd be flying this off the needle valve, and the needle valve blocked. So I ran it off the tank valve instead, and John thought, he's actually not a bad lad, actually. So we hit it off, and we had ideas. We were making stuff.
Yeah, a lot of stuff wasn't available. The sort of stuff we've got now, back then, wasn't available. You couldn't go in a shop and buy some of this rebreather equipment. So it was, if you can't buy it, but we wanted it.
So you engineered it?
Make it self.
Think about any hobby, whether you're into cycling or motorcycling or motor cars, or any hobby that you want where there's equipment involved, and you can't, people fettle. People modify, you put equipment on your bike to make it the way you want it to be. Yeah. This is exactly the same. We fettled, but because the diving we were doing was becoming quite deep, quite adventurous, that kind of fettling obviously just seemed a little bit extreme. But it's really it wasn't. It was just, we knew exactly what we wanted. Nobody had it, and we came up with ideas like, what about this? Oh, that's a good idea. What if we did it that way? And between the two of us, we had ideas. John had a lathe and a mill in his shed in the backyard, and we'd make two. So we'd come up with ideas, and we'd make two. We'd get on a boat, and someone would be like, oh, what's that? Where do you get that from? I want one. And this is kind of where the name Narked At came from, because it was like, well, what are we going to do? So we'd make two. Yeah. So instead, we'd make 10. And what we'd do is we'd sell 8 to pay for our 2. It was a hobby, right? And that was it. So where do you buy it from? Now, John's username on the forum was Narked At 90. Narked was a name, right? Yeah. It was just a name, right? Mine was Dive the World. So it was like, well, we got a website, and we've got a stupid PayPal button, because somebody said, where do you get that widget from? That bloke Narked At 90. That's how it came from. That bloke Narked At 90, right? Now, you have to spell that very carefully, because if you miss out the R, that's a very different website. Yes. Just want to make sure that's clear, right? Yeah. So we had this, we look at the website now, the historical, we've got the old copies of stuff, and you look at it and you think that is just so tragically embarrassing. Right? The website's awful, but nevertheless, sold 8, paid for 2. Sure. And that was it. We just did that, Yeah. And we enjoyed it. Whenever you do something that you love, you tend to do it well.
You do, yeah.
You know, and I tend to find it's the same as in business. People tend to employ the person rather than the company.
Yeah.
So if you have people which are really good, really invested and really love and are invested in what they're doing, like everybody else in here is, that's how you grow and become good.
Yeah.
So that's how it really started. And in 2007 we got the Global Award for Innovation, which you can see like globe there in the cabinet.
Yeah.
And in 2010 we got the European Award for Innovation, which is there, and somewhere we got an outstanding contribution stuff. And somewhere in between we got our first purchase order from NATO Research.
Right.
Because the stuff we did was different.
So were you doing this full time? Did you have daytime jobs?
I was,
are you engineers by?
I was the director of a certification company, 17,000 employees worldwide, the world leaders in engineering and certification.
Yeah.
John was engineering and maintenance. We both had day jobs. This was just fun, and it got too much for us to do it. Now, obviously, Narked wasn't making money. It was a hobby.
Yeah.
But it was that point, and I remember it very well when John said, "I'm going to jack it in and do this full time." But there wasn't enough money.
Have fun all the time. Yeah.
Yeah,
well, no, it was
I wasn't paying myself, so the day job was paying the bills, and Narked was every penny that came in from every sale went straight back into Narked to develop new products. So for years I didn't take any money. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We was having a lot of fun with it.
So John handed in his notice and decided to do this full time, and we was never going to make any money for both of us. So but that was the way it was, and we've always been the best of friends, always. We have ultimate faith and trust and loyalty to each other, and it's always been that way, and we've enjoyed that for decades now. For best part 20 years now, we've been best friends as well. So John doing this and me still doing it with him, but having a day job was just normal. In 2011. My company, I'd set up businesses throughout the UK for the company, and they wanted to then relocate back, and I didn't want to, so I took a golden handshake and left. And my whole idea was, I'll just drop on the diving business with John now, and that was it. Didn't work that way because the company now has expanded, and we've got 3 companies under the group umbrella, and we're doing all sorts of things for, for everybody from BA Systems, military air, through to Carlsberg drinks. We've got, the company's quite significant and broad now. But for the diving side of it, then it was just John and I, and it kind of grew. So we set up premises in Findon. Which we've always lovingly called and affectionately called the Shed. Because it looked like the Shed, but it was actually the old Unilever as in the company.
Research
it was their research lab.
Okay.
So it was pretty cool, but we were fortunate with that. So we set up there, and it grew, and of course, when it gets to the point where you can't handle things yourselves and you start to need employees, things start to grow. So we moved again to the premises where we are right now, which hopefully...
It's a big step forward from going from when you leave your job to then going into the business, but it's an even bigger step when you then take on staff.
It's a big scary leap. Yeah. You're responsible for staff, buildings, everything else.
I'll tell you how it is, and it's a long-running joke within the company, is that I come up with a stupid idea, because I've always had an ethos of saying yes and then figuring out how the hell we're going to do it later.
Yeah.
John looks at me, rolls his eyes, and then he makes it happen. So that's exactly what happens. So he'll look at me and say, for God's sake, and then he will then make it happen.
Right. Okay, well that's really cool. So tell us about your diving world. You've been diving a long time.
John and I have very different backgrounds when it comes to diving in the beginning, before we aligned ourselves when we first met and started making the rebreather stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, because I've been diving so long, I started off sort of diving with BSAC in the UK, in old gravel pits and I was 14, so
wow.
A very long time ago.
But your family was also diving.
Yeah, my brother Dave Routley was a dive instructor. His best mate was Lee Bishop, who learned to dive. So we all was learning to dive around the same
all
time.
familiar names.
Yeah. So people don't realise. Oh yeah, Lee Bishop is local.
Yeah.
As well as a lot of them. So people don't realise actually we go back that far from the early days.
Yeah.
My brother was a deep air guy, diving channel deep air, and I've been lucky enough to dive all around the world. After I sort of finished with BSAC, I got we were spying on hotels for Hayes and Jarvis, so we get flown out all around the world to go and write reports on hotels, and part of our cover was they gave us a diving holiday to go and spy on the hotel.
Yeah.
So I had to go and do a paddy open water course, even though I was a BSAC seasoned diver, spying on a hotel. But we got to spend time in Egypt and all different parts of the world.
Wow.
So I've been lucky enough to dive everywhere, absolutely everywhere. It was only in the last maybe 25 years that it was more back to the UK. I was sort of diving in all around the world. I've been to so many countries.
And did you do, obviously you did open water, advanced?
I went through the whole system with paddy, train. I don't fit well in people's groups, so I don't like to be told what to do. I tend to do my own thing.
Not a club diver, right?
No, I'm not a club diver, no. So I went through the paddy system as well as the BSAC system, and I got to the point where paddy wanted me to then start looking at being DM or instructor. It just wasn't for me. It's more technical, more equipment based that I really sort of get involved with. So I sort of pulled out the paddy system and started just doing my own thing. And not long after that, we started sort of developing our own equipment and going back to where we first started this podcast, developing our own kit together. Yeah. And then after we started doing that, you're doing a lot of shore dives, but also you're testing equipment. So you're in Stony Cove, you're in the pits and the quarries, testing equipment.
It stops being fun when you have to go out on the weekend, no matter what the weather is.
It does,
have to test that kit.
Yeah, it does take away a bit of the fun when you're not getting to do what you really want to do. You got to get this equipment looked at. So
yeah.
But I think Brent's diving was very different to mine, certainly in the early days.
So what got you started?
Well, I was on holiday and I just did one of these paddy courses in a hotel, and it was really, really quick. It was out in Thailand, and I remember my instructor, Waifot Musawadi, his name was. He was a little guy from Bali, I think he was, and he was just such a cool dude, and he got us through it, and I was crap. I was absolutely garbage at the very beginning, but I loved it. When I came home, I thought, well, I've got this paddy on water, I really should be using this. So I joined the BSAC club and got myself through the sport diver, and it was hard work, to be honest with you, once you got into cold water, and I wasn't the best at all. And I joined a Sobacco Association club in the northeast, SEA 875, and the guys and girls in that club were brilliant, but they were more friends than it was a club. The fact that we had a club name to it was irrelevant to the fact, So we went out diving, and that's when I started playing with rebreathers, and started off with a dolphin, semi-closed, and thought, this isn't good enough, but I could modify it. I'm an engineer, time-served engineer. I've been an engineer all my life,
What made you want to do rebreather diving? Was it just to...
I'm a gadget man.
So it's more the equipment-y side of things?
I've always been fascinated by anything which is new and different, and if it can be done, I want to do it, So it was kind of that, really, and wanting to know how things work.
Yeah.
Once you know how they work, you think, but why don't they use that in this? Well, I could make that work in this. Oh, hello, there's this guy called John Routley. He has the same ideas, and we started doing things together. So we were both running things like dolphin semi-closed. We made them fully closed. We ran kiss valves on them, ran micrometric metering valves on them. Then we started looking at things like the oxygen monitoring. But nevertheless, that diving then started to go deeper. Then I started messing with full face and communications. Then I started changing gas because helium isn't really good for comms. Hey, why don't I try something like neon? Do you remember the neon days? So I was always experimenting. If it was something new, John would shake his head and then he would help me make it happen. So, I stopped logging
dives. It's quite a good partnership like that, isn't it?
We're a very unique partnership, actually. When you see businesses fail so much, and you've got partners and one's trying to get something over on the other one. Me and Brent are not like that at all. No. There's no ego in it at all. No. If he does well on something, I'm chuffed to bits for him. Yeah. And vice versa. Yeah, there's some people that, he's doing all right, I'm a bit jealous of that, we just don't have that.
No, it's special.
Yeah. So I stopped logging dives at I think it was my 1000th mixed gas CCR dive, was the last one that I actually wrote down.
Wow.
So done quite a lot everywhere. Most of the diving has been in the UK, around the northeast, and the cold and deep and wreck finding stuff. But I've always been a wreck diver. I've always liked that. We would spend weekends going through the hydrographic survey trying to find marks. Then we'd charter a boat and we'd go out there and we'd ping those marks to find ones that were interesting. So you say there, and it says...
So the unexplored wrecks,
Yeah.
So
which you're not
sea-
quite certain
No.
what they are.
Exactly. So you'd find something on the hydrographic survey, it'd be like seabed clear at 82 metres, upright and intact structure, 6 metres high, 50 metres long. You think, ooh,
Time for another look. Yeah.
that one's on the list. And then we go out for a weekend and we dive them all. And we found things like the Hogarth and the Snaefell. You know, the Snaefell was a paddle steamer, it was used as a minesweeper, it was the old Waverley.
Yeah.
I think that one hit the ITN News. Then you got the Hogarth wreck, which was just a paddle steamer, second class passengers and cargo, and it travelled twice a week between Aberdeen and London. But finding that wreck, this is the kind of stuff that really, really lights my fire. I don't want to spend too much time on those kind of things, but finding that wreck, finding the bell, made you want to find more about it. So then you found out, you know, the skipper, Captain David Stephen, he got the Lloyd Silver Medal for bravery. It was one of the highest awards you can possibly get in the Merchant Navy. And he got that for pulling his ship alongside another one while it was under attack by a torpedo and rescuing everybody on board.
Wow, amazing.
So while he was being attacked by a torpedo, by a U-boat, he pulled his boat alongside and rescued all the souls.
Yeah.
The week that he got his silver medal, his boat was hit with the loss of all souls but one 19-year-old gunner who was found after 30 hours at sea. So it's that kind of story. You think, this is amazing. You've got these people who are so brave that, you know, even today, you think by our standards, it would be very difficult to try and equate the kind of people that these people are, and their social history should be known.
Yeah.
It was the social history that really got me from an emotional point of view. These tales had to be told. So finding the Hogarth, that became something that became aware, and I got a call from Meredith Browning, who was the curator of the Aberdeen Maritime Museum, who said, we're putting on a show, 100 years of shipping, could we have some of your brass? You know, like the bell and the crockery and stuff, you know, all receiver of wreck stuff, you know, it's
All
you
about
do it
board.
right,
Yes.
you do it right, you know. So absolutely. So I took the stuff up to the museum myself. There it is, you know, absolutely, this is what it should be. And she did a talk, and this is the whole point of this. She did a talk about 100 years of shipping. She was talking about the Hogarth and what it did and the story. And at the end of her talk at the museum, an old woman with her daughter came to the front with a bundle of postcards wrapped up in a piece of string. And her father was one of the crew aboard the Hogarth. And he used to write postcards home every week, twice a week, whatever, just saying, you know, what was happening on board. And there was a complete record of the social history of the life of what it was like to be aboard one of these, with some of the most brave and incredible
It brings
people.
it alive, for it's not no longer just this cold piece of metal anymore. You know, there's an existence. It was once a flourishing ship and everything.
So that exhibition, that talk, and now the social history of these postcards, which could have had, you know, when people pass on, you think, what happens to that? You know, it ends up in a box somewhere, someone says, I don't know what those are, and they get destroyed, or you never find out this. So learning about things like the Snaefell, and which was P.S. Barry, then the Waverley, and it was used as a minesweeper off Sunderland, and what happened to it, the Hogarth, and Captain David Stephen, and the bravery of his crew, and a little 19-year-old lad who 30 hours at sea. Not only that, but now people know what happened to them. They can now mark that wreck as a war grave for the Snaefell. So that now will not be interfered with, and those people can be respected as they should be. And the people of Hogarth can then be remembered. It's that makes it special. And I think that's what really got me about diving. That's why I continue to be a wreck diver.
Yeah, for a lot of people never get that history, right? They'll go down to a known wreck and go, oh, there's a pile of steel, that's great, nice dive. No more about it. They don't understand what went before. And it's important that actually people do. A lot of this stuff. Certainly, you know, where there's been boats sunk recently, you know, people want to remember that. You shouldn't just forget.
No, they all had life and
Yeah, but I love wrecks. Norway, those wrecks are absolutely fantastic. UK wrecks.
I think with the UK diving, right, it's the question you get asked the most when you're a UK diver, or for me anyway, where do you dive? And you say you're on an island, right? We're surrounded by water, and people sort of forget that you're on an island. And well, what do you see? So, well, if you take a little black point for every known wreck, and you put little points around the UK, there's a big black band of known wrecks, and that's just a known one. You know?
thousands of wrecks beyond 50 metres still in the unknown on a hydrographic survey. There's no shortage.
The Norfolk coast, suddenly, the Gloucester they found, didn't they? And it's just brought it alive for people. All these different wrecks out there.
But there's more to it than that. I mean, some of our really good friends, they dive a lot of inland sites and what we call muddy holes, really. Okay, it's affectionately called that. So, I mean, you've had plenty of instances of diving in muddy holes and climbing through the bottom of stuff.
Places we shouldn't really be. Dorothy Quarry has been a good one, I think, for both of us.
And that's where we tested most of our kit before we went out in the ocean. Tested, I mean, a lot in the early days when things were very much, should we say, built on ideas rather than engineering, if you will. How do you test this stuff? Okay, so some idiot has to put it in his back and they go underwater. So my arm went up as a volunteer for that every single time. So you do it in a controlled environment, but you still need to do this stuff deep. So you needed to go down to the 88 shelf. You need to go through the 80 tunnel. You need to go to the little box at 104 and stick your name on it, and test stuff. And I remember back in 2005 when we made the very first rebreather controller with the Shearwater control system on. The very first rebreather, other than Bruce and Lynn's own personal kit, that had a commercially application for a rebreather was the Deep Pursuit. It's the first rebreather ever controlled by a Shearwater.
Don't have one in the display case here actually, they all got sold off. But.
And I needed it tested, but we were supposed to be diving, and obviously with a new group of divers, people don't want to spend time in a freshwater hole. They want to go out and dive the wrecks, and so did I. So it was a compromise that I needed to test the Deep Pursuit this weekend, and an actual dive, not just couch diving and bench testing. I needed to get it wet. So it was an inspiration rebreather control system replacement, so it was a head replacement, complete thing. So the idea was that we'd go out and we'd drop into the bay in like 6 or 7 metres, just in the shallows, okay, salt water but controlled, drop in, test it out, get back on the boat, then go out and do one of the deep wrecks. We ran out of time, we went out, and we went on this wreck, and I went down to the bottom, and it was about 54 metres, it was a decent sized wreck, Lafonia I think it was, and the classic inspiration failed. I just got down the shot line, I tied in the anchor, tied in the shot line, sent the anchor back up, as you usually do, did all that. Everybody else is starting their dive, and mine just went upside, it went US. So I had to go back up the boat, everybody else stayed on the wreck. When it comes to buddy diving, it's sort of, back then it was sort of same ocean. If you're in the same water, you consider buddies kind of thing, right? So I got back on the boat, and I got up there, and I was really, really annoyed, okay? And the skipper came and said, it's a long slack, you can get back down. I think it's only 54 metres, it's not like I'm getting a big D code. Okay, you know what, I know what the rules are and stuff, but sometimes I think it was a bounce. So I stripped the head off, put the Deep Pursuit back on, clamped it on, and then bent down there, and then I was like, how did you get back down here? What are you doing here? Then they saw this brand new control on my wrist, and I'm showing off, like a little kid saying, wow, look at this, and they're shaking the beans at me for doing a 54-metre dive on a prototype that's never been wet before. But it never failed, and from then on, thousands and thousands of hours. What's the failure rate? 0.004% or something.
Yeah, they're out in the market 15 years. They've got tens of thousands of dives on these units, and they never come back. Occasionally see them back for a service. They just don't go wrong. We can't commercially make them anymore. It's just not.
It's not the way.
The world is different now to what it was then.
And did you always dive together?
No. I was off and off around the world, or when Narked went full time, it was full time. So being without a shed load of employees, you didn't take time off. There weren't holidays. It was just you put in every hour was necessary to do the job.
I booked it off all the way doing diving, so
It
anytime.
was having fun and I'm working hard.
John would throw me a piece of kit and go, try that out.
Yep.
But you know what? It's that it did work very well. I remember. There was one rebreather. We do a lot of development of rebreathers for other manufacturers. For example, we've mentioned in the past that the optical rebreather interface for the VR3 computer, that was us. A lot of the development of stuff behind the scenes. We don't just sell stuff. We develop with manufacturers. And there was a rebreather that was manufactured. It was made out of pure billet aluminium. It cost a fortune, and it was probably one of the best rebreathers I've ever seen in my life, as far as its construction, its design, and how it's made. And we integrated the Shearwater electronics into this rebreather for the manufacturer. And the guy was brilliant, and he was always redeveloping something new, and he was always modifying it. Before he brought it to market, he wanted it perfected.
Yeah.
Probably a bit too much, to be honest with you. Sometimes you just need to get it to market rather than spend years developing. But anyway, this one was made of pure aluminium from billet. And I remember doing
solid piece.
Yeah, it was machined out of one solid piece. It was a work of art from an engineer.
Yeah.
You know, this was like that porn.
It was proper pretty.
So anyway, I dived on this, went down, and we had a primary controller, secondary display, and a head-up display. So essentially, I had 9 oxygen cell readouts on this thing, all independent, all isolated. And I went down, got down to the wreck, tied in the shot, sent up the anchor, and the computer system started showing errors. Okay, it's a prototype, and we've been continuously developing. I'm always diving with prototypes. I mean, my life insurance, the broker told me I was in the same category as a stunt pilot. But never mind. So, you know, you dive with mixed gases on things that are prototype and conceptual even sometimes. So I'm looking at this thing now, well, okay, you know what, I'll do a dill flush, I'll find out what's going on and I'll sort it out. You've designed this, you've built it, you inherently know right down the algorithm of how this is firing on a solenoid. Yeah. You've been involved in that design. So I did a dill flush and all 9 readings were different.
They should all be matching, or close matching.
Yeah.
But
Right.
So I did a quick mental calculation. I was on 1050 trimix, did a dill flush that depth. One of these should be the right one. None of them were right either. So
something seriously bad is happening with electronics.
Long story short, came back to Narked At 90 Towers, put this thing on the bench and told John my tales of woe, having to bail out from this deep dive. You know, came back from this dive and there it is, and John looked at it and he looked at the oxygen hose from the first stage to the solenoid, and it was a MyFlex hose. It was all brand new stuff that we just got from Pete, and the chrome had gone.
All the plating, all the shiny plating off the end of the fittings, it's gone. It's all down to brass.
This was brand new, wasn't it? I said, yeah, you fitted it yourself, John. He said, you've only done one dive. Yeah. And you haven't like dived in like the caves under Bucharest. No. Well, the only way the plating could come off is with electroplating, reverse electroplating. Turned out that there was a single fault on the system that created a ground loop between the wet switches on the handset on my arm and the solenoid on my back, which created the voltage of the solenoid was 7 volts. Yeah. That small 7 volts was working reverse, and because that electricity was going into the water, it changed the 0 volt level of the controller and then floated all of the cell levels because it had no zero
reference. The sensors knew where 0 was anymore. They all
because of the electric current in the water, which then became a design change within the computer system. It was a long time ago. You know, but this is how we find things and we put them right in ways you would never have believed. But John just looked and said, "Must be a short on the solenoid." Boom, fixed.
Well, because I saw some plating off a metal fitting.
But this is how it works, and this is basically and this is what really floats our boat.
I guess it's why a lot of people send specialist kit for us to review and look at. Sometimes when there's been accidents, we get involved. Other times it's just people's kit's gone wrong, so it comes here. Even if it's not manufacturers that we normally work with, people will send stuff because we're brutally honest with people. And actually, in this game, you need to be. Yeah. You shouldn't be pretty about things when it's not pretty.
No. So for divers listening to this, what can Narked At 90 do for them?
Well, if you look at anything in the way of technology, the stuff that underpins the technology which they dive every day, from JGR, Revo, Liberty X.
Yeah. Actually, I mean, there is.
You name as many as you can.
There's just a handful out there. So not so much a Liberty. So JJCCR, XCCR, Revos, some inspirations. Think of all the rebreathers on the market, and generally, and certainly if it has any sort of shearwater association, so Shearwater Hudson, Shearwater control systems, it all comes here.
Right. Yeah. You can service them,
but not just that. I mean, we like design the equipment manufacturing for the ORI for VR3, right down to this kit out there that we've designed from scratch and built that have been used by DevGroup.
Right. Yeah, I mean, a lot of what we do here, you lot know, or people in watching the podcast will know us as maybe think of us as a dive shop, which part of the way we are, but we're also research and development. A lot of our technology and what we do never gets seen. It doesn't go onto the open market. It ends up in the military and other organisations.
I mean, that's a cool thing to know. I mean, when you get a purchase order for something, say, can you make something special? So we do. Then say, can you make a lot more of them? Can't tell you how many or whatever, because it just wouldn't be right. And then you say, oh, what's that been used for? Yeah, we sent that over to the US, and now DevGroup want more. Naval Development Group. Excellent, that's really cool. Then you find out that some of your stuff's been used in the zero-G simulator, the Marshall Space Centre. Then you find out, you know, and then somebody says, can you design this for the Royal Navy?
Yeah.
And you get a purchase order from NATO Research.
Or you get a purchase order from the FBI. What? Where's that come from?
Can you imagine? Yeah. So I mean, what we do, I mean, some of the stuff we do is, I mean, it's incredibly in-depth.
Yeah.
And I mean, one of the complete rebreather control systems that we've manufactured for a defence application, the feedback came back was that it's, what was it they actually said?
That was the best piece of equipment they've tested in years or something, yeah.
That must make it.
Well, I really hope that it does make it into service. I mean, there's new stuff one day and you can say, we did that, mate.
Yeah, that was us. And that's actually the nice part of this, right, is something we've built and you walk into a dive shop in the middle of nowhere. I mean, you walk into a dive shop in Australia, say, and they go, oh, you're John Routley, you're not and you see some of your kit on the shelf, and that's nice.
Nobody knows who the hell I am, which is the good thing here.
Yeah, well, I hate being on camera, as I've told you guys, and here I'm on audio and on camera.
Yeah.
But having that sort of feedback and that experience, for any inventor, to see their invention out there in the world is what they want.
Yeah, icing on the cake.
Yeah.
So for recreational divers, what can you offer? So we've spoken about rebreathers, the more techie side.
Yeah, so I mean, we've always we started off as basically a tech company rather than recreational. We are a bit more recreational now. At the end of the day, there's people coming into diving. You know, we all got to start somewhere in diving. We certainly catch them a bit later on when they come through the diving. So we've always left a lot of the recreational stuff to normal dive shops. But bit by bit, we are sort of helping more. I mean, the Shearwaters have moved more recreational.
The lines have moved. I mean, when we
started
off,
for sure.
A rebreather was a technical piece of kit for people who did deep cave.
It wasn't a recreational.
And it was seen as a dangerous piece of kit. I mean, even the inspiration had this terrible nickname for the yellow box of death, which was an awful name for it, because to be honest with you, it wasn't, right? I mean, rebreathers are not dangerous. They just can be used poorly, right? But at the end of the day, they always had a bad rep. But now you look at it, and a rebreather, and you look at some of the commercially available ones now, like your JJ, like your Arriva and stuff, and they are very, very safe. And they're actually open to people starting out diving directly onto what was seen as elite tech kit. And I think the lines have shifted now, that recreational now, you know, I suppose it started with even with Paddy doing a course with the dolphin. Yeah. You know, and there was the Submatics that tried to come out into that. I don't know if they...
Yes, to go. Yeah,
still going. That's great news. So those semi-closed rebreathers trying to break it into that.
Mara's got the horizon, haven't
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of gets people into that.
It is quite hard now. You say, which rebreathers do you service? There's so many out there. You know, it's trying to get your mind around how many there is. When we started, there wasn't many.
Yeah.
So as far as these, when you say it's recreational divers, where do you draw the line now?
Well, we've seen friends, haven't we, move over now from just open.
But if you've got a rebreather, you're going to be thinking, right, where do I take it to service? Because do you send it back to where you bought it from, i.e. like a manufacturer, or an independent person, people who can do it?
Well, even then we service for the manufacturers as well.
Yeah.
You know, so we have exceptional relationships with these manufacturers because we have an exceptional customer service reputation. We don't let people down. It's as simple as that. So as far as servicing, we'll service anybody's piece of kit, and we'll act as the manufacturer's representative, and we'll service their kit for them. Yeah. You know, so they outsource this, and a lot of manufacturers do outsource it to us.
I mean, we're fantastic at fault finding and diagnostics to a level which is actually outstrips a lot of the manufacturers. But when you come around the factory, you'll see some of the technology we have sort of sitting around. Most of the manufacturers don't have this sort of kit that we have here.
No.
Yeah, we'll be delighted to show you some of the...
You can pressure test here.
We can pressure test here, we can everything from full vacuum to ocean depth.
I mean, to put it in a kind of a quick nutshell, in the lab, we have the electronics lab, we have fault finding diagnostic kit right down at component level. We have computer controlled chambers that can run simulated dives. One of the chambers will do a repetitive dive to 150% of the depth of your equipment, repetitive 200 times, fully automated. Put the kit in there and it will dive that kit 200 times.
It's a very, very stressful test for any dive equipment.
Yeah.
If you want to break something, give it to us and we'll be able to break it for you.
But that's the kind of things we do for R&D. We also have vacuum chambers, So we can back the stuff down, we can put in potting compound and things for sealing for ocean depths. And then obviously there are no airspaces within that, so right down to core component manufacture we have that capability.
Right.
We also have in-house EMC labs, and you'll see the EMC test kit at the end, where we can simulate radio and conducted interference and even measure that. So we have EMC test labs.
That probably won't mean a great deal to the listeners, but all the equipment, all the electronic equipment, even your equipment here, has to go through those tests. So we can make your equipment fail just from irradiating it, basically. But all electronics have to go through that, and there's very few labs in the UK that have that capability.
I mean, what if you put a mobile phone next to your piece of kit and it failed? That would really be bad. What if you walked next to the radar, that Verona piece of kit on that boat, and jumped in the water, it didn't work? So we can do all the tests to make sure that's immune and that it won't interfere with anything else. But we also do magnetic testing as well. We've got a room in the back which we won't be going into. So we can do mag testing as well for magnetic fields and electric fields.
Right, okay.
So when people think of us as a dive shop, we are, but there's also a lot of other stuff going on in the background that people don't actually know about. So.
Exactly.
And dive computers you service as well?
Yeah, mostly the Shearwater systems, because of who we are and what we do. We're generally a little level above. We don't just change batteries. We do everything right down to component level on rebreather systems.
We can do that for any dive computer, for any manufacturer.
Right, okay. And you sell computers as well?
Yeah, well, we sell all the Shearwater systems.
From the very first one.
Yeah,
really?
the cabinet behind here, there's every Shearwater there is been.
There's the first one right there. It hasn't got a front plate on it. You can see the electronics through it.
Yeah, this one's that's a GF computer. It's like a big brick of a lump, but there was one generation before that.
That's like a brick.
And there's only ever 5 made, and I can't get hold of one. I think Bruce has maybe 1 or 2.
Wow.
If you look on the internet, there's a site called the rebreathersite.nl. It's run by Jean and Beck. He's basically a historian, and there's a page on there about everything right back to whatever, the very first rebreather ever. Which would be surprised in the 1800s or something.
Yeah.
What about open circuit? So say people who've got a thing they're getting into twin sets. And they need to buy tanks, manifolds, harnesses.
Yeah, we've never got into that because it's most dive shops. It's a thing where you want to try it on. It's not something you generally buy off the internet.
Buoyancy devices, dry suits, and things like that we haven't done.
No.
But for the dive computer side, you see, the majority of the electronics today, and this has always been right from the very first GF, I was about to say, is there, right through the latest ones we've got now. They're scalable.
Okay.
So you buy a Teric or a Perdix, and it is suitable for your open water diving at training level. Now, of course, as you were talking to us about the paddy training, that there's very little tables done now. And I remember when you used to have a pocket full of tables and stuff on a dive, but it's dive computers and software now. So these dive computers can be sold as open water standard dive computers.
Yeah.
And simply either it's already built in, or you can unlock that function. Just like putting an app on your iPhone, that you can now add nitrox capability, helium capability.
Yeah, I mean, it's even more simple than that. So I mean, you don't really have to unlock them anymore. They're fully unlocked, but you have different modes. So you have a recreational mode, and it removes all the complication of trimix numbers, and you can simplify the look of a system straight away. Shearwater is quite unusual because they started off as a very technical closed circuit computer. Where most of the other computers on the market, they start off as recreational computers and they're aiming to become technical. So they're adding more and more complication to a computer, and it gets very unwieldy. The menu's a bit weird now because they're just adding to it.
Because you can't take away the old, which was what it was based
on. That's right. So Shearwater started a very complicated but done in a simplistic way. To make it recreational, they just close off some of the complication and it makes it a very user-friendly computer. They've done it in a much better way to come from technical down rather than some recreational up.
Which is what I've done with mine. I've got a Shearwater Perdix, and I've got that on that set. I don't dive technical, and
there's no need for you to have all that information on the screen.
That's right.
Take it off.
So,
but you go on holiday and somebody says, "Hey, do you want to try this JJ? Do you want to try this inspiration?" You put that on your back and you go and do a 40-meter, air dive. On that rebreather. You can now switch it straight to CCR, air diluent, and enjoy your dive with a computer that's ready rigged.
And not complicated.
You're under supervision with those instructors and those dive leaders, but nevertheless uncomplicated. So it's a case of which computer do I buy? these will do you, and they'll probably do you for life.
Yes.
And we can support you from the very beginning, from when you first put that on air, open circuit, right through to how do I plug that into my rebreather.
Yeah. Which is what when I bought my off you, I was interested in buying a dive computer, which would basically say, right, this is going to do me for my diving career, and it future protects me. I don't have to then go buy another dive computer.
I mean, we all say that though, right? This computer's going to last me forever, and they go, ooh, something shiny.
But
you want something new?
Us divers do like our kit.
Yeah.
You know, and we do like shiny things.
Before you know it, you've got a shelf full of computers.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, but at least it's somewhere for people to start, and then you can take them on a journey.
I mean, look at that. Not everybody is like us, equipment orientated, where they got out the latest, newest thing. You know, some people will make that computer last for years, and we're still servicing old Pursuit computers, which are 15, 20 years old, and they're still coming in. And I hate to see an old computer be out serviced where there's no parts, but it does happen. But I want to see some. I like to see these old bits of kit still going.
So we're not talking in the realms of Microsoft when they go, oh, we don't know, it's an XP, we don't longer maintain.
Oh, well, yeah, just cut you off.
You know,
for as long as we can, we will.
Yeah. Divers do like look at. I think there are people who will have their BCDs for years. Right back to the old May West. Before BCDs, and sometimes do like.
Well, you can always tell your fees that dive with the sun-bleached Buddy Commando, can't you?
Yeah, and they'll want to keep hold of their dive computers, for years to come. And it's good to know that you guys are there. You can maintain them, because otherwise,
we still look after things that the original manufacturers actually forgotten that they used to make.
Yeah.
With a big turnover of staff that they haven't actually realised that this piece of kit was actually manufactured by them, and we still look out. We tend to try and hold quite a lot of old stock components. With KISS rebreathers, their old electronics was out of service, so I still want to see these bits of kit going around for years. So I brought all the electronics from KISS, what they had left.
That's what
so we
keep on coming back to us though. I mean,
yeah.
And you start to make friends.
Yeah.
And you start to know people within the industry, and even from our discussions earlier, saying it is actually a small world when you think about all the people that you've met, still meet, still know, and still consider your friends, who dive your kit, not because you gave it to them, but because it works and you've always looked after them, and then they've appreciated that and become something more than a customer, become a friend. Yeah,
we've certainly got custom. We've called a customer for 20 years, but they're friends.
Yeah.
And we've worked to help them out, or certainly in things like the cave diving community and cave rescuers and things like that. They've been known to us for a very long time.
Yeah, and that says a lot about Narked At 90. So
well, it brings that kit and say, can you modify this? Can you change it? And then you end up redesigning or rebuilding a rebreather head, and then suddenly you find out that person set a world cave record, and you think, get in, good on you, lad.
I was contacted just yesterday. I won't give any names, but by a cave rescue team with a new idea for monitoring the breathing of an unconscious patient underwater in a cave.
So see, that takes us right back to those 1990 days where that's what we used to do. And that's what lights you fire. So you're always going to be that. You always want to be that.
Yeah. And there's always going to be something new, isn't there, as well?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's that sort of thing that really gets me excited each day, is to work with different people to get over a problem, especially if it's in the rescue scene or to helping people. I mean, we could all fall foul of those situations where you need help, right? Be it falling on a craggy hill one day, or having a look in a cave and having a slip, or whatever it happens to be, a flooded cave, We all know how that's
finding your dive boat on fire in Egypt.
Yeah. So making systems and helping those people to get over those problems is what I sort of live for. Really.
So look at where our products come from the cell checkouts we've got the awards for validating oxygen cells for rebreathers, where there was nothing like it in the world. Nobody even conceived that, and we did that. I mean, right through to something as simple as the Pathfinder strobe that's behind it. I mean, if you think about it as a wreck diver, you go down on the wreck dive, and we always used to use Jotron strobes or something like this, and you'd put 2 or 3 of them on the shot line. Because you're supposed to line off, but at the end of the day, a lot of wrecks, it's not that easy to do so.
Yeah.
Right? And those kind of depths is pretty clear. and you negotiate your way around. But at the end of the day, it's still one of those hazards where people are making a risk assessment. Do I line off, or do I strobe and then find my way? Because if you don't come back up the shot line, you're not going to be on the deco station, you're not going to be on the trapeze. Then you're going to be doing a free water ascent with an SMB on the surface. Then the boat skipper's going to have to track 2 lots of people. You're a hazard to yourself and to your colleagues, right? So we need a strobe where people aren't saying, well, I need to put more than one on the shot line in case it fails. Something that's actually ocean rated. Made for divers, not just to be hardy on the surface. A lot of the strobes were surface markers for people lost at sea, so it's more to do with boating rather than was diving. So you want something that's ocean depth, that had a burn time that was as bright as hell, that you could see from either end of that wreck. So you had to create the world's most powerful dive strobe, the world's most powerful strobe that's submersible, and have it last a long time, and have it so won't leak.
The technical challenges to do that is actually far bigger than you think of. Oh, you just screw 2 things together and throw it in the water.
It's not a torch.
I think each strobe took 4 weeks to assemble, with 3 or 4 different types of resin that had to be used in it. The charging system to actually make it work, so it wasn't a pipe bomb, had to be completely designed because there was no charger on the planet to actually do it.
And to create the kind of energy levels we needed for that strobe, for the striking the arc, that power. But it was even something right down to how do you clip it to the line? How do you clip it to the line? Because think about it, you don't want it to move up and down, you don't want it to drop down and slide down into the dirt, into the silt or into the wreck. So I had to clip on the line at a certain point. You know, and then you sit on a boat with a long line fisherman and you see how they put the clips on the line. That's a damn fine idea. So we actually use long line fisherman's clips to hold the strobe on the line, and those can hold a tuna or a swordfish. It's a hell of a thing.
It is.
And it just does what it says on the tin. It doesn't need to be complicated, it doesn't need to be special, it doesn't need to be machined out of unobtainium and laser etched. It just needs to work, and there it is, and that's the kind of thing. It's, I mean, we could laser etch and...
Yeah, we can do. We have the lasers.
Because you do laser engraving.
Well, we've got, there's a number of sort of industrial lasers upstairs. I mean, every evil person needs a big laser in their life.
Absolutely.
It sort of goes with their... So we've had lasers for, I think the first big laser we got was 2012, something like that. We bought another one just before 2019, I think it came in.
So we can laser cut material up to 30 mil thick. We can laser engrave. We can even engrave materials in colour.
Right.
So some of the most advanced laser markers you can buy.
Very, very clever technology. You take a piece of silver metal and turn it into 50 different colours with the laser.
Well, you know when you see like an exhaust manifold on a motorcycle, a chrome exhaust, and you see all the colours of purples and golds, that heat changes the material. We can recreate that with a laser beam and create those colours.
You see, it's actually even more than that. We sculpt the surface with multiple frequencies, so it refracts different lights at different frequencies. So you can almost actually have a rainbow effect when you look at the.
So for who might want that type of?
Well, I mean, when we actually bought the laser, it's one of those things. Is you can buy a laser for marking any of your dive kit.
You want to mark black plastic white. You want to mark metal black. So it's just something that was more flexible, and of course it had much more capability.
As soon as we found out that we could buy a laser that did colour, I've got to get that one. It was wow, it's amazing. It's an amazing piece of kit. So we could have brought a much cheaper one that just did black and white, but that one does colour. So we spent quite a lot more money on it.
Take a Shearwater Dive computer with a titanium bezel. What colour do you want?
We can sculpt the titanium bezels to be 90 odd different colours.
Oh wow!
Or even rainbow, you do it like tie-dye.
That'd be smart.
So if divers want to customise their own kit, and
we certainly talk to us. I mean, we have done quite a lot that the coloured ones for friends, basically, for people out in the community. It's generally when somebody comes here and they see all these different coloured titanium bezels sitting around, then they realise that they really want one.
So we've got that one, you've got the CNC workshop there, we've got lathes and mills, and we've got our manufacturing capabilities pretty cool.
And if people want to know more, where's the best place to go?
Just email us. It's info@narkedat90.com.
Your website?
Or through the website, that's probably the easiest for people if they know the website.
Narked@90.com.
Not Naked at 90, that's a completely different website.
You had to say it, didn't you?
And we still have couriers come here and I've had DHL argue with me at the door saying it's naked at 90. I said, no, that's not who we are. He said, I can read. I said, you certainly can't. I said, that's far more to do with your psyche than it is with what the company's
What you're thinking of.
Yeah. But you know what, it's one of those things, is you know where the name came from now, so you can appreciate that.
Yeah. No, that's been really good to find out more about you guys and Narked At 90.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. And if, obviously our listeners, just get in touch with you and they know they'll get a great service.
Yeah, I mean, they know, like, we're not, we don't shoot a straight arrow, really, do we?
No, we're always good for a laugh and up for a challenge.
Yeah.
So.
But for people who are recreational divers and they're thinking about moving up into the tech world, and it's a good place to know that you guys are here.
Yeah.
We look after it. I mean, you think it's just something as simple as you're going to order some gas fittings because you're going to customise your rig.
Yeah.
And we'll go through those orders. I mean, we can't tell exactly what you're thinking, what you're doing, but we'll look at something and look at the gas fittings and thinking, I think I know what they're doing here. They're trying to fit this to that, and we'll get in touch with you, ring you or email you saying, are you sure you want to do this? Why are you doing this? You don't want that fitting. That's wrong for regulating.
I mean, that certainly is a day-to-day thing here. Gas fittings and threads and all the different things that go with scuba and the industry standards. It's very confusing for people. So I don't want to say save people from themselves, but sometimes you do. Yeah. And some people just phone up and just ask for advice.
It's confusing.
And we'll give, it is, absolutely, yeah. So we'll give honest advice, and it doesn't matter that I'll make more money on one than another, you'll get an honest.
But you two have time served, you've done the dives, you've done you've put the time, you've got that history, and there's a lot of respect for that, because that comes from time served in the water.
Certainly. I mean, we give exactly the same advice that when we have OEMs come to us for advice, which is, we always find it strange, you're an expert in your field, but you're asking us, which is very flattering, but we want to help. But we give exactly the same advice to anybody that came in off the street. Yeah. If they need help, we'll help.
Yeah. No, I think that's brilliant. So, good. Go to that website, narkedat90.com.
Yeah, I mean, it's got the products and stuff on there. Not all of them are. Some of the stuff we retail, some of the stuff we make. Yeah. It's probably, after listening to this, people look at it in a different light and say, I didn't realise that you were that, or that this came from you.
I have no doubt that there's a lot of people diving out there with our kit on and don't even realise, because we make it for another manufacturer. So then it gets their brand on it. But I watch people go around thinking, look at me, I've got this on. No, you haven't. You've got my stuff on. Is what you've actually got.
Yeah, you see a cable on a rebreather. 9 times out of 10 it came from us. Probably more than 9 times out of 10. That kind of thing. No matter who it is.
No, it's been good to hear.
Thank you
very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
And we hope you get some inquiries.
I just want to speak to people and let them see that they can have fun.
Nice diving.
So that completes our tour at Narked At 90. Hope you've enjoyed it, and thanks very much to John and Brent for showing us around. If you want to go find out more information, go to www.narkedat90.com. You're making me laugh.